Hi, I'm Jen Rubin, editor-in-chief of the Contrarian. Delighted to welcome back former Illinois Congressman Adam Kinzinger. Adam, welcome.
Hey, it's good to be with you. How are you?
I'm fine, but don't check your 401k or really
Yeah.
anything else about your economic situation. Why are Republicans not marching with pitchforks on the White House? What is wrong with the House and the Senate? Are they simply afraid of Donald Trump at this point?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, they're cowards. Look, any extent, I mean, sometimes we forget that Donald Trump has been in our lives politically for 10 years now. And over that 10 years, the Republican Party has basically excommunicated or defeated any thought, any independent thought, any academic thought, and any vestige, frankly, of conservatism. It basically became a party that pretends to be conservative, that pretends to be academic, but really just does whatever Donald Trump says. I mean, look, in Donald Trump's first administration, if he would have done something like this, the Republicans would have impeached him. And now they're
Exactly.
quiet. And unfortunately, we may have to see economic calamity and Republicans having to fear their constituents more than they fear Donald Trump. That'll be the key.
And it's interesting when you hear Republicans complain, like Ted Cruz, they say, "Oh, it's going to be an economic." They don't say it's going to be an economic bloodbath. They say it's going to be a political bloodbath, as
Right.
if the economy is incidental to their future. At what point do they really panic about 2026 and start to inch away, or, oh my, God forbid, take back the tariff power from the White House?
Look, I don't think we're too far from that if the market continues to slide. Now, here's the
Yeah,
reality of this is, the market's an emotional thing. So it's going to drop and then it's going to come back. But that coming back doesn't mean the economy is. Then we have like the things that set in that are deep, the supply chain issues, all that, the price increases. But I do think if the market continues to slide, you'll see a few more people speak up
yeah.
certainly when the economic numbers come out. And that's going to be, I mean, I think there's very little doubt now that we're probably entering recession territory. That may change things a little bit because this is totally self-inflicted. Now,
Right.
I will say, because I have to say it, for the first time in my life, I actually agree with Rand Paul on something. And he's out
Yes.
there saying that the tariffs are a mess. I can't stand anything else about Rand Paul, but I'll give him that. He's right.
Right. Now, in spite of this economic calamity, they've been obsessing over a tax plan. And they don't have a tax plan. They don't have a tax and spending plan. This was going to be their big gift to business, their big gift to billionaires. Where are they with that? And are they going to be able to move forward on that while the economy is falling down around their ears?
It's funny, Jen, because the thing I'm trying to articulate it, but Republicans have always believed, and I believe this, that if the economy grows, that's the best way to increase federal revenue, right? And you just see
Right.
that when the economy grows, revenues increase. And so they always said, we're going to do tax cuts so that the economy grows and we increase revenue. Does that work totally or not? I don't know. But what they're doing now is crushing the economy. So now they're going to give tax cuts to maybe what? Recover economic growth, which it won't do, but recover economic growth that's been damaged by this insane tariff policy. And it doesn't matter how much you raise on tariff, if the economy goes into negative territory, the amount of income you'll see is going to decrease. So we're finding
Exactly.
ourselves potentially in I guess, what do we call it, stagflation situation,
Right.
where we're going to have rising prices, a stagnant economy, and frankly, an exploding debt. And that's the wrong time for an exploding debt because that's the time when we should be spending government money to get out of a recession, and we don't have that room now.
This is why I think you see Donald Trump screaming at the Fed as if the Fed is going to save him, screaming at Republicans not to be upset. I mean, pretty soon he's going to be in a screaming match with Elon Musk, who, by the way, said he wants to go back to zero tariffs with Europe. That's essentially where we were under President Biden.
I mean, that's exactly right. And look, I have no problem with the use of tariffs if it's like, okay, China unfair trading practices, we need to
Right.
do that in limited cases. This is nuts. And so, yeah, I think what Donald Trump is freaking out right now. I think, Jen, that to the depth of his soul, he really believed that this would work.
Yeah.
If you think about it, if you're a megalomaniac, you think that everybody underestimates you. You are the smartest person in the world. And so when all these eggheads come and tell you that tariffs don't work, and you since 1985 have been saying trade deficits are bad. And by the way, still can't get anybody to explain to me why a trade deficit is bad. I have a huge trade deficit with Chili's because I only give them money and they always give me food. Um,
Exactly.
but he's just stuck in his old way, and it may take it really damaging the economy for him to learn. He'll never learn, but the people around him may.
Exactly. So we are going to have elections. They're not necessarily federal elections, but we're going to have elections in Virginia and in New Jersey. Are voters, in your experience, inclined to take it out on the party in power, even if they're not directly responsible in New Jersey or in Virginia? Are the Republicans going to get a whipping this year?
Republicans are going to get crushed. And I mean, I think we saw that in the two specials in Florida, a
Yep.
district that, Donald Trump won by 30%. Now the Republican wins by 14. I think you can take that 16-point kind of delta, let's cut it in half. So it's 8-point shifts. Now that starts to shift real seats in places. And we've always seen, I can't even think of an exception to this rule, that the Virginia, New Jersey election always punishes both the incumbent party, but also if an incumbent party is screwing up, it punishes
Yeah.
them pretty hard. And that's when
Yeah.
like Chris Christie came to power and some of those. So yeah,
Right.
I think New Jersey and Virginia are very much headed for probably light to deep blue territory this next election.
Right. Meanwhile, we have a measles outbreak
Mhm.
in several states, and now RFK Jr. goes to the funeral of a child and says, the best way to prevent measles is to get an inoculation. Do things like this register with the average people? Do they remember what he was doing? Do they care that their senator voted to confirm this crackpot? Or is it only when we have a full-blown pandemic, a full-blown health crisis, that it really hits home?
I think this hits home with some people. And,
Yeah.
in a 50-50 election, some people matter, right? That can shift it to 51-49. I mean, I don't even know if pandemics do it anymore. I mean, we got more divided during a pandemic, and we have people questioning whether vaccines even work, which is nuts. But yeah, I do think, look, if RFK is saying get inoculated, that's good. Let's encourage that
Right.
because that's right.
Right.
But I also think something happens when, uh, to some people, it used to happen more than it does now. When you actually have the levers of power, all of a sudden you realize that your tweets and your crazy words have a real impact. So I hope he's turning the corner on that. But let's keep in mind he's already fired 20,000 people from HHS that do everything from researching future disease to promoting the flu vaccine, which evidently we're going to be behind on this year again too.
Exactly, exactly. So, if you're a member of Congress, what's the right play if you're a Republican? Do you begin to separate yourself, or are you just afraid you're going to get crushed in a primary? What's the calculation that these people are making right now?
Well, they're keeping their heads down.
Yeah.
If I was in the situation where I wanted to continue to stay in Congress and I had to support Trump, I would do everything I can to be on vacation right now and let
Yes.
this shake out. And that's what they're doing. They're going to
Yeah.
try. I wouldn't be surprised, by the way, if this week in the House they find another reason to get out. Although they'll probably, because they got out early last week, but they're going to be trying to avoid the media because they want to see how this shakes out. If it gets
Right.
bad enough, then they'll have to make statements. If it doesn't, then they never turned against Trump. But they don't care an iota about their districts. They don't care an iota. They care about the economy in so much as it hurts their bottom line. But they just want to get reelected because these cocktail parties in DC that I've been to 100 of them, and they're really boring actually. They're addicted to them and they love them for some reason.
Exactly. Well, it is always good to talk to you,
You
Adam,
too.
because you're a breath of fresh air. Bet you don't miss being in the house one bit these days.
Nope, I do miss like dealing with Ukraine stuff. Like I kind of wish I
Yes.
was there for that. Everything else, I am glad to be free.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to next time you're back here. Let's hope that Republicans develop a spine. We shouldn't hold out hope, but maybe, just maybe. So
Exactly.
thanks so
Thanks.
much. We'll see you next time.